Dear Dhamma friends, we have come to the Dhamma sermon of this retreat. May you give your consent by saying Sadhu Sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Anapanasati bhikkhave bhavita bahuli kata mahappala hoti mahanisansati. Dear Dhamma friends, as you all know, we are using a particular sutta, particularly to improve our knowledge about Buddha's teaching, and again to compare our meditation with the Buddha's teaching. Because Buddha has mentioned that when we understand that our practice is in accordance with Buddha's teaching, which is properly tallying, which resembles with the Buddha's teaching, then we can confidently travel the path. We can confidently practice. We can faithfully commit ourselves to the practice. Therefore, taking certain suttas which is completely touching our meditation is extremely helpful. And again, Buddha says that we need to establish ourselves in the sila, the morality. That gives the basic foundation for mental development, as otherwise we are trying in a shaky field. So when ourselves are well established in restrainment, the bodily restraint as well as the verbal restraint, so we are maintaining fair amount of beneficial ground, some suitable ground for the development of the mind. Therefore, Buddha says it is necessary to support our practice through the sila or the morality. And again, it is necessary time to time discuss about our practice, and again about certain understandings or certain points of the Dhamma, so that we will get further develop our understanding. And again, if we have any perplexities or if we have any doubts, so those can be eliminated. So more and more we become confident about the practice as well as the teaching. And not only that, so typically we all have sort of dispersed mind or distracted mind, scattered mind. So that is necessary to concentrate, to make it one-pointed, so that such mind only will be able to penetrate what is the existing phenomena, or to see things as they truly are. So therefore Buddha says time to time it is necessary to concentrate or tranquilize the mind, and that is also called samatha anuggahita, the supporting through the concentration practice. Not only that, actually we need to sometimes arouse some energy, arouse some kind of a joy in the practice. So even for that, samatha practice is helpful. And then Buddha says we need to develop wisdom, because the typical knowledge what we have about the book knowledge, about the society and various other things, the worldly knowledge, is not the real wisdom that Buddha appreciate, Buddha values. So we need to understand what Buddha's wisdom, or what is the wisdom that Buddha really encourages or pointing out, to which we have to develop our mind. So that is in a way little difficult to understand, because we think that typically we know many things. Today's world is full of information. Many things are available at your fingertip. So it is easy to gather knowledge, fill our head with a lot of perceptions. But according to Buddha, this is not the exact wisdom that Buddha expected, and this is not really the wisdom which is penetrating the defilements and cut through the defilements, and it is entirely a different path that Buddha is trying to tell us. Therefore, acquiring such wisdom, the real wisdom, is extremely important. So therefore Buddha says it is necessary to cultivate such wisdom. So therefore these 5 different ways help us to have a freedom of mind, and again the freedom through wisdom. Having said that, so I have selected another new sutta for Kalalgoda, and I thought it is sometimes necessary to touch the key teachings of the Buddha, especially related to the practice, Because otherwise sometimes we are going through some various difficult and advanced suttas, but some of you may really need to know the exact basics of meditation. Or such one sutta available in, actually there are many suttas explained in the practice, and one sutta particularly explains Anapanasati or breathing meditation is called Anapanasati Sutta, which is available in Majjhima Nikaya. It's a very beautiful sutta, comprehensively touching the various aspects of in-breath and out-breath meditation. So the background story is also very beautiful. It's very aesthetic. So in one occasion, Buddha and the Sangha were residing in Migaramatu Pasada, or what you call Pubbarama, which is also in Shravasti. You know, there are two main monasteries were there in Shravasti. What is the Jetavanarama, which was built by Anathapindika, and the other one is the Pubbarama, which is built by Visakha. So at this occasion, Buddha and the Sangha were residing at this Migaramatu Pasada, or the Pubbarama, and it's a beautiful gathering there. Not only Buddha and the young Sangha, but the major disciples or the great Arahants were there. So names are mentioned in the sutta itself. So in this sutta it is said Buddha is there, and again Venerable Sariputta, Venerable Maha Moggallana, Venerable Maha Kassapa, Venerable Maha Kachchana, Venerable Maha Kottita, Venerable Maha Kappina, Venerable Maha Chunda, Venerable Ananda. Likewise, the main key Arahants, the great Arahants were there. And again, there are many newly ordained monks as well. So the background is that these great Arahants are taking sometimes 10 newly ordained monks, maybe 20 newly ordained monks, maybe 30 newly ordained monks, or maybe 40 newly ordained monks, and they are training now. Now you know, when one gets ordained in the sasana, so it is he might have in an entirely different field, maybe in the agricultural field or something, maybe in the government field or whatever thing, according to that society at that time. But once he become a monk, he is entirely like a newly born baby into the sasana, into this Buddha's dispensation. So therefore it is quite necessary to train such a monk. Therefore it is not immediately sometimes give the high ordination. Rather, sometimes it depends on the tradition. Say for example in Sri Lanka, say typically you are taking as a, when someone wants to go forth, he has to request that he wants to become a monk. He has to show his willingness, and then he has to stay some time serving the Sangha, and as a result then Sangha will put him into what you call Pandupalasa stage, where he's into 10 precepts now, but still in a temporary basis, but not yet a monk and neither a layperson. But now he is not using money, he is not eating at night and improper time and all these things. Very similar to Samanera, but still not a monk. Again, now the Sangha is observing him, sort of investigating him, whether he is suitable for robes and all these things. So now still he is going through various training, and after that only he becomes a Samanera or novice monk. So again, after becoming a novice monk, he has to protect Sila, and he has to show his caliber, he has to show his obedience, lawfulness, his faith, and the sincerity to the Sangha, to the practice, to the Buddha, and then only the Sangha will decide, okay, he is suitable for the high ordination, and then only he will be a higher ordained monk or a bhikkhu. And again, a bhikkhu is called a Navaka bhikkhu, where he is a novice bhikkhu now. It's a new sort of still from 1 vassa to 5 vassa is called a Navaka bhikkhu, where still he has to go or live with a teacher, learning many things, because there are a lot of traditions, lot of customs there, and again we have to learn about the Vinaya, the monastic discipline and all these things. So the newly ordained monk and again the newly higher ordained bhikkhu has to be under a teacher. So that is minimum is given as 5 years. So one has to live with a teacher. And if teacher decides now he is capable and he can handle things by himself, then he is become independent after 5 years. So this is how the typical structure among the Sangha. So it's a kind of a very beautiful association where the newly ordained monk is very well associated, well looked after by the Sangha, so that he can learn the tradition, he can learn the Vinaya, the monastic code, and again the Dhamma and various other disciplines and all these things, and then he become a proper bhikkhu. So therefore here also, importantly here the practice, where how he can meditate, what are the various meditation techniques available. So all these things are to be learned, are to be practiced little by little, very gradually, slowly. So here also Buddha is telling in this particular sutta, in this Anapanasati sutta, so these great arahants are there, the elders are there. So each elder has taken such 10 novice monks, or 20 novice monks, or 30 novice monks, and maximum as per this sutta 40 novice monks, and they are being trained now. And the advices are given, so these new monks are training themselves, and they are particularly in the practice, in the meditation, and they are now advancing in their practice. So now Buddha and the Sangha are staying or spending their vassa. There are 3 months period where without any traveling, any moving, they have to establish in one particular monastery continuously for 3 months. They can't move as a traveling bhikkhu. Rather, they have to establish select a particular monastery and have to be there, strongly giving attention to the practice. So after these 3 months, so there's a very beautiful custom called Pavarana, where now there are many monks living together, and they are associating each other and doing various tasks together as a group. And while associating like that, one colleague might have seen another mistake or shortcoming in another monk, and there's a very beautiful custom among the Sangha at the end of the 3 months, that is called Pavarana Uposatha, where they are making an open invitation in public. Say 50 monks were there in the monastery, and they were all living as a group in harmony and doing various tasks. And at the end of the vassa, after 3 months, on the October full moon day, as per today's terms, and they come together and they individually, one by one, they are telling, if you have seen or if you have heard or if you have doubt about my sila, that I have done certain mistake, out of sympathy, please tell me. Please tell me. Then if I can understand that yes, this such mistake I have done, or such shortcomings available in my life, and it is a reasonable pointing or reasonable shortcoming, or rather reasonable observation, then I will correct myself. So it's extremely important, because it's a very open invitation, it's a kind of very honest invitation, and again it's a very humble invitation, allowing the group of monks to further develop. Say for example, if one monk has a shortcoming, if he couldn't notice it, then he is continuing with that shortcoming for long and long. But if some another monk has noticed that shortcoming, and out of compassion, out of sympathy, if he can pointing it out as a help, as a friend to that particular monk without making him offended, rather to with the intention to make him grow in the sasana. So it will be a great benefit to the other monk. So therefore Buddha encourages this practice. So it's a custom, it is a vinaya to do, it's a must to do as ordained monks, as high ordained monks, that they have to make an open invitation to every other monk to show any such shortcoming. So on this Pavarana day, then Buddha have seen all the monks. Now Buddha is there in the open air. That is, it seems to have a kind of an open ground-like thing, and the sun, the moon is full moon day at that time, and the whole sangha is in the big assembly, and the Buddha is in the front, and Buddha is now sort of observing the minds of the monks. And now Buddha sees the real nature of the minds. Some are sort of developing, some are being advised. So these elder monks are advising, and all this ongoing process Buddha understood. And now the young monks are really training themselves. They are very obedient, very wholeheartedly, and very humble, and they want to grow themselves. They want to develop themselves. And Buddha understood they are very committed and honest, and they want to train themselves. And Buddha decided very happily that I will extend this stay for another month. So in the Buddha's time, after this Vassa period, after 3 months, they start to travel again into various directions. But now, after seeing the growth in the young monks, so Buddha decides, okay, rather going for traveling, let's extend this period for another month. Now they are further developing themselves. So again, the elder monks are giving instructions, the younger monks are accepting them wholeheartedly, and they are practicing diligently. And now that 1 month also finish, and then again the assembly happens, and then again the Buddha sees how the conditions of the mind among the bhikkhus, and he was so happy, and he's telling the various qualities about the sangha in that assembly. And he says this sangha is free from prattle, he's from some kind of unnecessary childish kind of talk, and again free from chatter, and they are fully committed for the higher goal. And again ahuneya, so they are worthy of gifts. Pahuneya, they are worthy of hospitality. They are worthy of offerings, dakineya. And anjali karaniya, they are worthy of reverential salutation. And again they are the incomparable field of merit. So likewise Buddha sees these high qualities among the sangha, and he is so sort of delighted about that, and he says, if someone is offering something to this kind of group of monks, so the benefit to that donor is immense. So he is so pleased about the behavior of this sangha. Now Buddha wants to further help this sangha to become further developed, further improve themselves. And not only that, Buddha sees that among these sangha there are great arahants, and there are great anagami or the non-returners, and again there are sakadagamis or once returners, and again the sotapannas or the stream winners. So the arahants are the ones, the completely enlightened monks, and there are several qualities mentioned available in the arahant, in an arahant, and those are also very beautiful and important to understand certain qualities. And some qualities called khinasava, where all the taints or the influxes are completely, slowly, completely uprooted. That means it is not that immediately every asavas or all influxes are immediately cut off, but khinasava, khina, the term khina means gradually, slowly, they are being fading, and ultimately completely uprooted. Khinasava. Then Vusitavanto, that means the holy life has lived. Now say for example a monk, a lay person become a monk, and he is now spending a holy life for a purpose, for some objective, and he has fulfilled this objective. Katakaraniya, so done what has to be done. So he is with a particular task, he has particular goal, objective, and that is done, completed. Ohita bhara, that means the laid down the burden. Now say for example, we as human beings, we have various thinking and various burdens in our minds. Either we are at home or at our working place or at any other place. So wherever we go, our mind is a little crowded. Our mind is little heavy with a lot of things in our mind. It is not entirely free. So we are carrying a weight in our head. So even though bodily we feel like beautiful, but the head is full sometimes. It is not mindful, but rather mindful. So completely full. So therefore the head is very heavy. So Arahant is called Ohita Bharo, where he has completely laid down that burden. Oh, his head is entirely light, therefore. And then it's called Anupatta Sadatta. So he has reached his goal gradually. And again, Parikkina Bhava Sangyojana, he has destroyed the fetters of being in order to continue the ongoing samsara. He has completely uprooted such fetters. And Sammadanya Vimutta, that means completely liberated through final knowledge. So certain very specific and fairly high knowledge is there with an Arahant. So he is entirely free from fetters, entirely free from influxes, and his mind is entirely free from lust, hatred, delusion, and all these such defilements. So he has completed the task. So such Arahants were there in that assembly. So Buddha has seen. So there are great such Arahants in that assembly. And again, Buddha has seen there are non-returners, or what we call as anagamis, where they have completely cut off the 5 lower fetters, and they only will in the most they might return to this human realm only once, or rather they won't return to this human world at all. They will be reborn in the pure abodes, in the Brahma realms. So they are called anagami. And then the sakadagamis, and they are called they are 3 fetters were completely cut off. Sakkaya Ditti Vicikicca, Silabbata Paramasa. Sakkaya Ditti is the personality view. Vicikicca is the doubt. Silabbata Paramasa is called the various rituals and the belief that the liberation can be achieved through various rituals and such external customs. So such 3 fetters are completely uprooted. Not only that, so if there are any greed, hatred, delusion which is causing future birth in a hell realms, that is also diluted. So such greed, hatred, delusion is also diluted or attenuated. So they are called sakadagami. So maximum they might come to this world, this human realm as only once. So they are called once returners. Then the sotapannas, the what you call the stream winners, stream enterers. So they have cut through the first 3 fetters, and they are also there in this particular assembly. So Buddha sees the arahants are there, the anagamis are the non-returners are there. Sakadagami, that is the once returners are there, and again the sotapannas are there. So the whole group is there. So it's a big assembly, and Buddha now wants to support them further in order to develop their spiritual qualities. Now further Buddha sees that among these monks there are certain monks who are practicing 4 foundations of mindfulness. So that has their key practice. And then some are practicing Iddhipada, the spiritual various paths, and then the Bojjhangas, the enlightened factors, the path factors, and again some are practicing Metta, the loving kindness, some are practicing Mudita, the altruistic joy, and again some are practicing upekka, the equanimity. So likewise, different methods, different meditation techniques are being practiced. Now it's a kind of a combination of different meditation techniques, and now Buddha wants to give them one practice which may be suitable for everyone. So that is how he is now preaching Anapanasati. So we can understand in a way, now different previous practices were conducted or we were practicing, but still there's a possibilities available for one to practice Anapanasati. If you are to shift to Anapanasati, still it is possible. Even today, say for example, some people, some meditators are practicing 4 guardian meditations. Say Asubha, where the repulsive meditation. Some are practicing Buddhanusati, that is the qualities of the Buddha. And again, some are practicing Metta, the loving kindness. And some are practicing Marananusati, the understanding the death contemplations. So likewise, these are called the guardian meditations. So, but after that, if one likes, if one wants, then one can practice Anapanasati as well. So Anapanasati has become one of the key meditation technique, particularly in Sri Lanka, for many years. So if you consider the great eras in Sri Lanka, where Buddhism was the very in its high ground, then Anapanasati is one of the meditation technique they have practiced. And Buddha therefore says, Anapanasati bhikkhave bhavita bahuli kata mahappala hoti mahanisansa. So the main statement he is telling to this great assembly of monks, the first statement he is telling, if one develops Anapanasati, it will be of great benefit. It will be of great fruit. So after telling that, now he is giving a kind of a summary of the whole practice, and he is telling Anapanasati bhikkhave bhavita bahuli kata chattaro satipatthane paripureti. So if one practices Anapanasati, meditation on in-breath and out-breath, then he can fulfill 4 foundations of mindfulness. And then chattaro satipatthane bhavita bahuli kata satta bojjange paripurenti. So if one practices all these 4 foundations of mindfulness, then they can fulfill 7 enlightenment factors. Then he says, satta bojjanga bhavita bahuli kata vijja vimuttim paripurenti. If one practices 7 enlightenment factors, they can complete, they can fulfill vijja vimutti, that is the knowledge and the deliverance or the freedom, and they fulfill the path. So now we are in a little doubtful area where Anapanasati, if you consider Satipatthana Sutta, Anapanasati is included in the Kayanupassana section. It is not available in the Vedananupassana section, not in the Chittanupassana, not in the Dhammanupassana. But now in Anapanasati Sutta, Buddha says this one type, this single Anapanasati, if one develops properly, and that he is explaining in the future, if one develops properly, this one very technique, Anapanasati itself, is capable of developing all 4 foundations. Not only Kayanupassana, but even Vedananupassana, even Chittanupassana, even Dhammanupassana. So that's a very big eye-opening for meditators. So how one can develop Anapanasati in order to develop even Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana, all 4 foundations of mindfulness. So that's a very important point. And again, when one develops Anapanasati in this way, so after completing, after say fulfilling 4 foundations of mindfulness, then they will lead to fulfilling of 7 enlightenment factors, Saptabojjanga. And after fulfilling 7 enlightenment factors, he will reach the knowledge and the freedom. So there is a very big eye-opening, because this very single technique is capable of fulfilling all the tasks. So that's why Anapanasati was so popular, particularly in Sri Lanka, as well as in Burma and many other countries as well. And therefore, Anapanasati is taken as one of the key meditation technique among all entire world today, for example, even. And if you are considering even for children, you can still ask them to simply see the breath. Even if you want to see, say, all people, they still can practice Anapanasati. If you want to go for young people, still you can recommend Anapanasati. So there are many, many benefits available in Anapanasati. And again, not only that, it is not in this sutta, but Anapanasati can still be developed in order to attain jhana and particularly to develop higher concentration. But this sutta actually is oriented towards the vipassana, where how one can fulfill 4 foundations of mindfulness and the 7 enlightenment factors and the knowledge and the wisdom, knowledge and the freedom. So therefore it's more into the vipassana side. So therefore Anapanasati is one of the key meditation technique being used by the Buddha, as well as many arahants, as well as the majority of the practitioners. And then Buddha now starts to explain how Anapanasati can be developed in order to fulfill all these tasks. Now that is what we need to be very carefully understand or very carefully pay our attention. So if we are practicing in this way, if we are practicing as Buddha is explaining, then we would be able to fulfill these tasks. If we are not practicing as Buddha says, then we are maybe going in a different ways. But if we are able to practice this way as Buddha preaches, then we can approach, or at least we can reach to some extent according to the Buddha's teaching. Actually, these steps which are explained in this sutta is not only unique to this sutta, but there are several other suttas explain the same information. Say, for example, if you take Girimananda Sutta, which comes in Anguttara Nikaya 10th Nipata, there are also all these 16 steps are mentioned. And there are several such suttas available in the Sutta Pitaka, where all 16 steps are mentioned. And if one practices accordingly, so they can fulfill all these tasks, all these objectives, what is mentioned in this Anapanasati Sutta. Now let's see how Buddha starts practically to develop Anapanasati. Then he is telling, Katam bhavitacha bhikkhave Anapanasati, Katam bahuli kata, mahappala hoti mahanisansa. Now he is asking the question, how one has to practice Anapanasati, how if one practice in this particular way, who can fulfill these such objectives, set objectives. And then he is telling, Aranya gatova, Rukkamula gatova, Sunyagara gatova. Now it's a kind of a precondition, prerequisite being mentioned. So you have to either go to the forest, either you have to go to a root of a tree, or you can go to an empty place. So it seems like none of are available here. Roots are available, tree roots are available, but now suppose we are in a meditation hall. So then how this becomes suitable for Anapanasati? So still we can understand when people are of the same attitude, they are with the same objective, and they come together and they sit together and they practice together, and once they close eyes, there are no noise, only the ongoing typical noise is there, but they are helping each other, behaving well, maintaining silence, and all these things are conditions are there. It is very close to what these mentioned qualities, which we can get through the forest, we can get through the tree root, we can get through an empty place. So therefore we can closely define meditation hall is little closer to an empty place. And again, there are no much distractions. That is another important thing. So if you consider the typical house or typical residential area, there are many noises and there are many distractions. There are many attractive sights, sounds and all such things. So it's quite distracting. So you quite difficult to pay your attention to very neutral object. But if you leave aside those distractions and come to an empty place, go to a forest, a remote place, which is less access to those facilities, what you call, those various noises, many people and all these things, then you have your own seclusion. So it is therefore, in the beginning of the practice, so it is better to find out such an ideal place. Because as a beginner, it is very difficult to handle various noises and various, other distractions, because he is now struggling with himself. Because at the beginning, you are under the influence of the defilements, under the influence of the hindrances, and hindrance power is so strong. It's a huge battle going on inside the mind, and mind is not used to be in the present moment. So it's constantly being in the past or in the future, and now one is trying to keep it in the present moment, and to which mind is not used to. So therefore it's a very internal battle going on in the yogi's mind. So if we are trying to do it in a distracting area, distracting environment, it's quite difficult. Therefore, for the beginners, it is best to go for an ideal situation where less noises, less distractions, and it's a quiet and conducive environment, and it is not too much heat, too much cold. So likewise, you are getting the suitable environment, conducive environment for practice. So therefore, Buddha first mentioned these prerequisites. Either one has to go to a forest, has to go to a tree root, or has to go to an empty place. So there you will get an ideal environment. And then he is telling, Nisidati pallankang abhujitva. Now he sits cross-legged. So that is another point, because when you are practicing Anapanasati, so it is the natural breathing that we are trying to pay our attention. So if our posture is not well balanced, if our body is not well erect, if it is bent to one side, so then this process, inhaling and exhaling process, may not happen smoothly, may not happen naturally. Therefore, maintaining such proper posture is extremely important. Not just important, it is extremely important. Therefore, spending several minutes to adjust yourself, maintaining or preparing yourself, having a well-balanced posture, and again keeping your back straight, keeping your head straight is extremely important. And you have to feel comfortable, you have to feel at ease after you having all these points or all this posture properly, having this proper posture. So then Buddha says, Ujunkayam panidhaya parimukhaṃ satin upaṭṭapetva. Say the Ujunkaya, the body has to be straight, and parimukhaṃ satin upaṭṭapetva, you are keeping your mindfulness in the front. So where to establish mindfulness in Anapanasati is mentioned here, parimukhaṃ satin upaṭṭapetva, where your mindfulness has to be established in the front. So typically it is closer to the nostril, closer to the upper lip. So closer to the nostril is where you have to maintain your mindfulness, establish your mindfulness. And again, with the breath, you are not moving inside. With the in-breath, you are not moving inside. And with the out-breath, you are not moving outside. Rather, you are maintaining your attention at the nostril. So it's a kind of fixed place. You are trying to maintain your attention. And again, sometimes sometimes certain yogis trying to find the exact pinpointed place where this breath touches, but it is not immediately necessary. Because when one starts developing mindfulness, you can't find it out immediately. Because your mind is not yet sharp. Your mindfulness is not sharp yet. So therefore it is not necessary to go for such precise place. Rather, if you can maintain kind of an area closer to the nostril, that is more than enough. So if one have fulfilled all these qualities, then one can start practicing Anapanasati, in-breath and out-breath meditation. And again, then Buddha is telling how to do it. Sato asa sati, sato passa sati. So that is the first step. So here simply, now he is mindfully breathing in and mindfully breathing out. Now from our birth, we were breathing in and breathing out, but not mindful. But now we are trying to be mindful on breathing. So that's the difference. So you can understand it is not something artificial we are trying to do. We are just allowing the body to breathe, and simply we, as a secondary process, we are trying to be mindful. We are simply witnessing breathing now. So far we were not witnessing it. So far we were not observing it. Rather we simply allow the body to breathe, and we mind our own business. And body is breathing. Now Buddha is telling Sato asa sati, sato passa sati. Now you mindful and breathe. Allow the body to breathe, but you be mindful about that, not on something else. Typically body is breathing and we are doing so many things. We are drinking, we are eating, we are laughing, we are crying, we are running. So many tasks are happening, but body is breathing. Poor body. But now Buddha is asking, use this task which is free, available from your birth. Body is doing it for you, and just try to be mindful of that bodily process. So therefore, Anapanasati has this great benefit. You don't have to do anything purposefully. You are simply sitting cross-legged, very comfortable, body straight. Suppose there are no much distractions outside, and for your benefit, body is now breathing. And you don't need to do anything artificial. You don't need to do anything deliberately. And body is doing the whole thing for you. And you simply have to witness the body. You simply have to plunge into that process. You simply have to observe that ongoing process. But one thing happens is, so when we start observing this breathing process, sometimes unknowingly we start to control it. So that typically happens. Because so far body is breathing by itself, but we were never observing it. But once we start observing it, unknowingly we start to control it. So now we control breathing in, we control breathing out. Forcefully we are breathing in, forcefully we are breathing out. Now the whole process becomes artificial. Now we feel little frustrated, very little tiresome. Sometimes headache happens. Sometimes the head becomes very heavy. Sometimes the eyes are focused to the nostril. So many problems. So then again we have to relax. Because it is not that through the eyes we are looking the breath. So that is another mistake we sometimes do. Once our eyes are closed, we are trying to see the breath through eyes. That is entirely not necessary. So we simply focus our eyes are simply looking at something, some place which is more comfortable. Say for example, if it is comfortable to look at say 5 feet ahead, so you are simply looking such place, and then suppose you are closing your eyes. Still the eyes are still looking at that with the closed lids. And at that time you are paying your attention to the breathing, not through eyes, but through the mind. You are paying the attention through the mind, not through the eyes. So if such is happening, so these little shortcomings or these little side effects won't come. So we know how to maintain the body. And again, sometimes we close the eyes very tight. Eyelids are very tight. Sometimes even kind of ripples are happening in the eye. So if we are effortfully closing the eyes, that's also wrong. We have to allow eyes to close. We have to simply, naturally close the eyes. Say, for example, when you are sleeping, you are not paying any kind of effort to close your eyes. Eyes are just closed. So similarly, we are simply, effortlessly closing the eyes. So eyes are simply closed. And again, sometimes in the beginning, as the Sutta mentioned, so we have to keep the body erect, straight. But as you are meditating, sometimes the body itself do a minor adjustment, and we should not try to correct it. Rather, we have to allow body to maintain that relaxed posture. Because we start with a very strong, very steady, very straight posture, and it might be little too much for the process. So body knows better than us what is the really relaxed posture for this ongoing process. So without our knowledge, while we are paying our attention to in-breath and out-breath, the body as a side process, it is adjusting itself in order to properly grasp or in order to properly observe this breathing, and it is much more comfortable, much more relaxing. And we should not immediately correct the posture, rather we have to allow the body to maintain that relaxed posture. And again, so we are establishing mindfulness on the breathing, but even though the process is so simple, our mind is not used to do that. Therefore, what it happens is, so it is now again going to the past. So there are a lot of memories and so much regrets and all these things. So again the mind goes and start involving all these things. Suppose after several minutes, after 5 minutes, you remember, okay, I have to watch the breath. Now again you return back to the breath. Again say you are maintaining for 5 breaths. Again mind goes to the future, for example. Many projections, many expectations, so many plans. So again mind get involved. And after say 5 minutes, again you come back to the real world. Okay, I have to watch the breath. Okay, you start again. Again after 3 breaths, again it goes to the past. Another 3 minutes, lost in the past. Okay, after 3 minutes, you come back to the present. Again establish mindfulness, again watch few more breaths. Say after 5 breaths, again mind shift to the future. Okay, another 3 minutes lost. Again in the future, thinking. After 3 minutes, okay, again you understood, okay, I have to be back, I have to be in the breath. Again you come back to the breath. Another 5 breaths. So this is the only way. So sometimes we think just after we close our eyes and we establish mindfulness on the breath, whole 1 hour I can watch the breath. So your mind never will stay like that. So therefore we have to be extremely patient when we are practicing Anapanasati as a beginner. So many people given up Anapanasati because they are with high expectations. So they want to keep their mind straight away with the breath for many hours. It may never happen. So we have to be extremely humble, we have to be extremely patient. We have to watch the mind like a mother looking after a child. Child may be behaving differently. Child may do various naughty things. But the mother never give up the child. Mother still try to tame the child. Still maintaining some attitude that I can still tame this child. I can still develop this child. So similarly, we have to have a mother-like attitude in ourselves in order to tame the mind, because mind is not used to look at the Anapanasati. Mind is not used to look at this kind of ongoing, very basic process. It is entirely in the lust, entirely in the greed, entirely in the hatred, entirely in the delusion, lot of conceit, full of defilements, full of hindrances. Such a mind trained into this kind of a very subtle process is extremely difficult. That's why we have to spend fair amount of time, giving enough time and giving enough commitment, and then slowly develop mindfulness. But all these, say, shortcomings, all these collapses, all these falling asleep are all experiences. Sometimes once you start watching breath, unknowingly you are sleeping. So that's another hindrance we have, because we are not used to observe this kind of a neutral process. So once mind start to establish mindfulness on breathing, after 10-20 breaths, it start to sleep. Because there are no any kind of triggering impulses coming through breath, any kind of impulses, any kind of great distractions coming through breath, and therefore mind easily get into sleep. That's another major hindrance we have. Suppose you are involved with a lot of activities, say in your profession or in your day-to-day activities at your home. Suppose you are used to multitasking. Say you are watching the TV and eating, and you may even looking at your child. So many tasks are there. Say you are typing the computer and still watching the monitor and again calling as well. So multitasking, answering the phone also. So we are used to multitasking nowadays, and all these are harmful for meditation. And harmful to meditation. I mean, I can't say the whole life, but at least for the beginners, it's extremely distractive. Therefore, that's why typically my teacher, respected Bhante Dhammajiva, used to say, slowly, mindfully, silently. So you have to do one task at a time when you are developing mindfulness, when you are catching up mindfulness. So one task at a time. So we are nowadays with the rat race, we are doing so many tasks, nothing wholeheartedly. We are not investing enough time to anything. We are not doing anything wholeheartedly, but we are doing so many things. So, but in meditation, can you wholeheartedly be with the breath? So that is a difficult task, because breath is not interesting and it is utterly boring. And now we are asking to be wholeheartedly 100% with breath. So you can't do it even with the other tasks. So it's very difficult with this very neutral, very boring object. How I can be with 100%? So another problem. So we are then trying to keep the breath, and again mind shift to various other things. And now for beginners, then the posture giving enough trouble. So they can't maintain after 10 minutes. Pain happens at the knees, pain happens at the back. So head starts putting down. So like that, many problems are there. So again, the postural problems are so many, posture related problems, because we are not used to cross-legged and maintain this kind of a pyramid-like posture, but rather we are using very comfortable chairs to sit. But here now we are trying very simple cushion or kind of a cloth or something, and trying to maintain a cross-leg posture, which is the most conducive posture for a beginner to completely comprehend breathing process. Because other postures are not so helpful for a beginner. That's why Buddha recommending this posture, where your body is the legs are cross-legged and the back is straight, body is straight and the head is straight, not bent, and your mindfulness is established at the nostril. But fortunately, now we have this meditation chairs some yogis are using. They are also giving us some fairly close posture that one can keep the body straight, and unfortunately the legs are, the lower part of the legs are down. So therefore it takes more time to concentrate. But if you can keep the lower limbs to the parallel to this the upper limbs, so that is more conducive for developing concentration. You might have observed this. Suppose when you are sitting in a chair, it takes long time to develop concentration. But if you are sitting cross-legged with this kind of posture, it is more conducive for developing concentration. There are plus and minuses therefore. So you may get enough comfort sitting in a chair, but at the same time there are drawbacks in that posture. And on the other hand, so as you trying your best, giving enough time to maintain posture, slowly, your body is seasoning for this posture. Your body adjusts to this posture, and that becomes a benefit to you. That becomes a help to you, because even say for 1 month ago, for example, the yogi is struggling to maintain the posture for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, say he has to change the posture. But after 1 month, he can maintain it for half an hour even. Say, if he's continuous practice, maybe 2 months of practice, he can maintain the same posture, properly balanced posture, maybe 45 minutes. So likewise, if you can maintain without much discomfort for 1 hour, the same posture, that is more beneficial, more conducive for developing mindfulness. And then, if Buddha is telling, Digang va asasanto, digang asasamiti pajanati, digang va pasasanto, digang pasasamiti pajanati. Now we are coming to a very subtle area of this breathing meditation. Now one can understand, when I am breathing in, I know this is breathing in. This is the in-breath happens. When breathing out, this is the out-breath happens. So you can distinguish in-breath and out-breath. And sometimes we can even utilize certain techniques to facilitate this process, to reduce distraction. You can simply mentally note, as the breathing in happens, you can simply mentally verbalize as in, or breathing in, or inhaling, or whatever the term, whatever you are comfortable, you can use such term. So the body is breathing, and now you are experiencing the inhale, and at that moment you are mentally verbalizing in. Then the body is breathing out, and you are experiencing that breathing out, the exhale, and at that time you can mentally verbalize, mentally note it as out or exhale. So you can use this noting as a technique to establish mindfulness, and it is extremely helpful for a beginner, because such confirmation that when you are experiencing in-breath, when you are mentally confirming it is, I am very sure it is not the out-breath, it is the in-breath. You are 100% sure about it, and you are confirming this is the in-breath. Then it's a kind of a mental confirmation, a kind of a complete acknowledgement about the bodily process, and your mind is fairly now involved, fairly locked in this process. Therefore, it becomes prone to less distraction. So again, sometimes you can use counting techniques. Say, for example, in-breath and out-breath is considered as 1. Next in-breath and out-breath, you can consider it as 2. Next in-breath and out-breath, you can consider as 3. So likewise, you can start counting. So in-breath happens 1, out-breath happens 1, in-breath happens 2, out-breath happens 2, in-breath happens 3, out-breath happens 3. So likewise, you are continuing. Suppose after 4th in-breath and out-breath, suppose mind distracted to another object. Then after 1 minute, you come back. You can't go from where you started, rather you have to come back to 1. Again you start 1, 1, 2, 2, like that you are continuing. Suppose you succeeded till 10, then don't go beyond 10, better come back to 1. So likewise, these techniques can be utilized. So because it's quite difficult to train the mind. So we have to acknowledge, we have to accept, we have to be very humble that we are not used to train this mind. We are so concerned about the body, but never concerned about the mind. That's why we are now trying to be concerned about the mind, and we are now not allowing the mind to go as it likes. Rather, we are trying to tame it. It's like a wild elephant. We are now trying to, wild bull, not an elephant. Now we are trying to maintain it on a kind of a process which is less harmful, less distracting, and less defiled. So that is the process of in-breath and out-breath. And as a result, if you are being able to establish mindfulness on in-breath and out-breath, now suppose the process is going on, now you are able to maintain mindfulness for consecutive 20 breaths, then your target has to be how I can further develop it to consecutive 25 breaths, consecutive 30 breaths. It is not that you are counting how many breaths, but rather you feel, now I can maintain for about 10 minutes, I can continuously be with breath. How I can increase that to 15 minutes. Distractions happen, but now the mind is not involved in that distraction for a long time. Say distracted in the beginning of your meditation, say it was distracted there for 5 minutes. With the development, with the training, now it is not lost there for 5 minutes, rather it is now returning back within 4 minutes. Say rather it is returning back within 3 minutes. So likewise this distracted period reducing. Now it is your focus develop, your attention develops into this ongoing breathing process. Now you can discard mental verbalization if you have used and see whether you can simply observe the process. Now I like to repeat that. So far you were maybe using this mental verbalization, in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath, like kind of a verbalization has involved, has utilized in order to establish mindfulness. And now suppose you are capable of maintaining mindfulness consecutively for say 20 breaths, 30, 40, 50 breaths. And now you can discard this labeling, mental verbalization, and see whether you can simply experience this ongoing process. You don't need to mentally verbalize in breath and out breath. Rather you can silently be aware of in breath and out breath. Now you are silently be aware of in breath and out breath. If you can do that, so you may feel fairly light. You may feel less burdened. Your mind become fairly light. You may feel kind of a joy. You may feel that you are now living in the present moment. Because so far mind was distracted, mind was talking. But now less talking happens inside, less inner chatter. And you are simply fully aware of in breath and out breath. And then on such position, you might feel there are differences between in breath and out breath. In breath is not 100% similar to out breath. In breath may be longer, out breath may be shorter. In breath may be cooler, out breath may be warmer. So likewise differences may be there. So all these things now you are understanding as a result of refined mindfulness, developed mindfulness. And then Buddha putting us to the next stage, he is telling Digang va asasanto and Rasang va asasanto. Likewise, either when you are seeing well-established mindfulness, when you are maintaining well-established mindfulness without mental verbalization, without labeling, you not only see the differences between in-breath and out-breath, but rather you can still feel the differences between two closer in-breaths or two closer out-breaths. When compared to previous in-breath which you have experienced, this ongoing in-breath seems to be longer. Maybe when compared to previous in-breath, just finished in-breath may be shorter. When compared to previous out-breath, this ongoing out-breath maybe appears like longer or it appears like shorter. So likewise, two closer in-breaths or two shorter out-breaths, two closer out-breaths, you can understand it is not unique or it is not exactly similar. There are very subtle differences. So if you are to understand these subtle differences, so can you imagine whether you can see these things with a talking mind, with a thinking mind? You can't. So you have to have an utterly quiet mind in order to see these subtle differences. So you can see how much we can develop the mind, how much we can focus our mind, and how well we can see this precise detail. So seeing in-breath and out-breath itself is a very big task for a beginner. And now Buddha is taking us to the next stage, and he is telling not only that, you see there's a difference between two consecutive in-breaths, two consecutive out-breaths, they are not exactly similar. To such level, we can refine our mind, we can refine our mindfulness, we can develop our concentration. And then Buddha say, Sabbakaya Patisangvedi Asasi Samiti Sikkati. So he is now putting us to the next stage. Now he is asking us to restrain ourselves to see the beginning of the in-breath, the middle of the in-breath, and the end of the in-breath. The beginning of the out-breath, the middle of the out-breath, and the end of the out-breath. Now each and every in-breath and out-breath has its kind of beginning area, the middle, and the end. Similarly, each out-breath has its beginning, the middle, and the end. It is not that you have to draw a line and precisely see the beginning, then the middle, and the end. Rather, you can see this kind of beginning area is there. Slowly, in a subtle way, it is beginning. And then it is sort of the feeling or the contact develops. The intensity of your feeling develops. And now you understand it's the growing path, the middle path. Now it starts to reduce that feeling, sensation, and you understand now it is on the other side, the ending side, and ultimately it disappears. It reduces its intensity and it's completely disappear. Now you have to very focused and very carefully, very patiently look at this whole process. Completely, you are seeing the complete cycle of in-breath. You are seeing the complete cycle of out-breath. And sometimes even the yogis might sense there's a little gap between the end of the in-breath and the beginning of the out-breath. And at the end of the out-breath and the beginning of the next in-breath, there is a little gap in between these 2 points. So even the yogi might be able to understand that. So you are utterly looking at it now, closely looking at it, without any distraction, without any inner chatter. You are completely, closely involved and looking at it. So if you are able to look at it, if you are able to do that, so you find the breath is really beautiful now. It is not very boring. Now the breath becomes really beautiful. It's very beautiful in breath, very beautiful out breath, very beautiful in breath, very beautiful out breath. And now you are waiting to get the next beautiful in breath. You are now waiting anxiously to get the next beautiful out breath. So very soft, very gentle. You are slowly, mindfully, silently watching the breath. Very beautiful. So now inner chatter almost finished. You are completely with in-breath, completely with out-breath. So if you are able to come to this stage, then further challenge happens. What are the challenges? You fall asleep. So then you have to wake up. Then you have to understand, no, this is not the time to sleep. I am not doing all these things to sleep, have a nice sleep. But rather to develop mindfulness. How I can be awake with this subtle process. Now is a big struggle going on. How I can be mindful with this very subtle process. Because our mind is not used to maintain this kind of a process awake. With this kind of process very mindfully, rather it goes to sleep. Now, in case you think in order to make me awake, I need to forcefully breathe in or forcefully breathe out. That's a wrong decision. So if you think that I have to go and walk, that's a wrong decision. You better sleep rather than get up. Because you have to go through this process rather than making a big decision. If you start to make a big decision at this point, if you start thinking, if you start doing something, if you start putting this noting again, all are wrong decisions. Rather you better sleep, just go through it. Okay, try the next sitting, no problem. Next sitting, say you have reached this stage, say for example, after 30 minutes. Now you are watching the breath very carefully, and you are able to observe this complete cycle. And after 30 minutes, suppose you slept, nothing to worry. Okay, you go for the next sitting. Now you understand. Okay, I am coming to a very refined state, but still my mind is not capable of handling it. But you understand, it's still some training has to happen, skill has to be developed. And then you are continuing your meditation, and say after 31 minutes you start to sleep. Not 30 minutes. Okay, next sitting, go for that. Okay, after 32 minutes you start to sleep. And not only that, in the walking session, you can boost yourself, you can refine your mindfulness. Say for example, you are doing your walking session, you are trying to see more details. So at this stage, if your sitting is on this stage, parallelly on walking session also you can walk mindfully, not much distractions. And because the same mind, same skills are being used in the walking, therefore now walking happens, less distractions, and you can be 100% with your left foot, 100% in your right foot, 100% in your left foot. And while walking, just see how many details are visible for you. Previously it may be only roughness. Now there may be softness available, there may be heat available, or hotness available, coldness available, maybe stiffness available. Likewise, there are several other qualities available, and you can see such refined detail, and that gives you sort of further improvement to the mind, and you get that skills developed, and again come back to sitting. Okay, after 35 now you are sleeping. Okay, now you develop like that. Now you completely awake in this whole process. But unluckily, this breath becomes subtler and subtler. Now you think that the breath may stay in the same level so that I can continue the whole hour, but more you properly see it, the body start to breathe very softly, very gently. It is not the previous breathing. Previously you may be consuming a lot of oxygen, but now very less consumption of oxygen. You are saving a lot of oxygen for the others. So, so at this stage, now the mind is giving, the body is giving you another challenge. Now breath becomes very subtle, very difficult to catch it, and you might feel that you have lost mindfulness. You have gone into the downfall. But it is not really happened. What has happened is the breath has become refined, further refined. It becomes more and more challenging. Being with the gross object is much easier than being with the subtle object. Now breath becomes more and more subtler, and your task is to be mindful on this subtle object. So more and more the object becomes subtler and subtler. In order to comprehend that, in order to be aware of that, you have to maintain very refined mindfulness. So the object itself is giving you the challenge, and your skills are being naturally developed. So these are the real advantages of the in-breath and out-breath meditation, because this whole process, the bodily process, is kind of a real laboratory to develop this process, develop refined mindfulness. And just to remind you, some similar fashion, the rising and falling happens in the abdomen, also happens. Say you can observe rising and falling, you can establish mindfulness there, and again you can see certain risings, you can see the differences between rising and falling, and again you can utilize the naming, the labeling, rising, falling, the very similar fashion you can use rising and falling. And Buddha, therefore, the last step in this section, Buddha says, Passambhayang kaya sankharang asasissamiti sikkati, Passambhayang kaya sankharang passasissamiti sikkati. Now Buddha is asking the yogi, so you allow the mind to tranquilize, you allow the breathing to become subtle, allow the breathing to become subtlest. So don't make it rough, don't make it gross. Rather, let it become very subtler and subtler, very soft, very subtle. And mind also very subtle, the breath also very subtle. It is like almost you are not breathing now. And you may even lose the differences between in-breath and out-breath. You can't even now distinguish whether it is long breath, short breath, all are gone now. And you can't even distinguish whether I am breathing in or whether I am breathing out. Now you are in a puzzle like. So you can't distinguish even that detail, but you are in a very tranquil mood. And your body might feel like floating and very comfortable, no pains inside the body, and no thoughts, and your mind is well established in this very subtle breathing process. And so that actually ends the Kayanupassana section of the Anapanasati. And these 4 steps, what are those? The knowing whether it is long, in-breath or out-breath. The second is whether it is short, in-breath or out-breath. Knowing and restraining yourself to be fully aware of the complete process of in-breath and out-breath. That is the third. And just restrain yourself, allowing the mind and the breath to be utterly tranquil. That is the pasambhayang, kaya sankharang. You allow the body and allow the breath to be completely tranquil. And that is the 4th stage. And Buddha says these 4 stages are completely body bound, completely related to the body. Therefore, Buddha says this is the Kayanupassana. If one develops all these stages through Anapanasati, Buddha says that you are developing Kayanupassana section of Satipatthana. And Kayesu kayanyatarahang bhikkhave evang vadami yadidang assasa passasa. So therefore Buddha says, so this bodily process, this in-breath and out-breath is part of the body. These 4 parts are particularly a representation of the body, and therefore I say you are in the Kayanupassana section. So this actually ends the Kayanupassana section of Anapanasati. So we'll continue maybe tomorrow with the Vedananupassana section, and thank you very much for listening. So as a custom, at the end of the Dhamma sermon, we share our merits. So all of you have observed Sila and you are protecting it to the best. And again, you are developing mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. And again, you were involved with the Dhamma discussion and listened to a Dhamma sermon. This way we were able to accumulate a lot of merits. Let's share these merits with all the past devil relatives, with all the celestial beings, and whoever in need of merits. Let's help these merits to develop mindfulness. With that motive, so wishes in our mind, let's recite the traditional verses. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bummattha deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummattha deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu desanang. Akasattha ca bummattha deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu mamparang. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බානපත්තියා ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බානපත්තියා ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බානපත්තියා සාදු සාදු සාදු